Hello and welcome to the third episode of the Panel by Panel podcast. If you're new around here, the basic idea is that I take a comic book story that is either significant or particularly relevant at this point in time, or just a fun one, and I do my best to explain it to my friend Aaron, who is a comic book newcomer. This episode, as I'm sure you will have seen already, is all about Thor God of Thunder. We obviously pushed this one to this place in the schedule for the release of Thor Love Thunder. If you haven't seen the movie, we do talk about spoilers at the end of the episode, but we do give you plenty of notice so you can click off by that point. We do start the episode by talking about our thoughts on the movie without ruining anything that wasn't in the trailers. And we talk about a comic that does tie in quite a lot, but after seeing the movie, I can assure you that reading this comic or listening to us talk about it won't ruin your enjoyment of the movie at all, or ruin any big plots or anything like that. However, if you do want to go into the movie absolutely blind and not know too much, then maybe go watch the movie first and come back, but I don't think it will ruin too much for you. If you are listening to this episode on YouTube, then please subscribe and drop this video a like if you enjoy the episode. All that standard stuff, you know, follow, rate on Spotify, follow us on our other social medias, Instagram, TikTok and Twitter at Parallel Panels. All of that stuff really helps, which I'm sure you already know about. As for this episode, if you're familiar with the other two episodes, then you'll know that we tend to start the episode halfway through a conversation and then just go straight into the actual podcast. And this one features a particularly long conversation about working as a mascot in Disneyland that lasts 6.5 minutes. So if you would rather just get straight to the Thor God of Thunder / Love and Thunder stuff, then go ahead and skip 6.5 minutes in, because it is a long conversation with a lot of rambling about nonsense. But yeah, without further ado, this is the Panel by Panel podcast episode on Thor God of Thunder, written by Jason Aaron. People who work at like Disneyland, I could never do that. You could pay me like, I don't know, 50 quid a day. Wait, that's not even that.
50 quid a day is terrible.
That's terrible. That's not even minimum wage. 50 quid an hour, I'd probably do it.
I don't know. Thinking about it.
If you paid me double what I make now, but I had to work at Disneyland,
Like 20 quid an hour, but you work at Disneyland.
I don't think I could do it. I feel like I'd give it a go, but I feel like I'd get fired after like a week.
The one in Paris, I probably could.
Yeah, that's true. The American one, no.
I don't know French though.
No.
That's a big problem with the Paris ones. I don't know French. So that'd be that's quite a big hurdle. But yeah. I guess I didn't really talk to any of the French people.
No, but then we were also like in like sick form, so we didn't really need to speak to anyone about anything.
But I guess like if you're working there, you just gotta go. You good? Oui. Or you'd like learn that in French. You'd be like, is it down? You just learn that in French. So you learn those little like tidbits,
just like key phrases.
Yeah. Whereas in America, the problem is fucking hot. And like the main thing I think about is being in the in like a stormtrooper costume or something, and in that heat, I'm struggling with this, and I'm in shorts and t-shirt.
Imagine.
And I haven't really done anything all day.
Imagine it's this hot as well, and you're in like Mickey Mouse costume, and they're like, you have to be excited about stuff,
and you have to like move around.
I've been walking around, and they'd be like, Mickey looking kind of bummed out today. Mickey's not had a good night's sleep, and I'd be like,
hey Mickey, I love you. Oh, fuck off. That wouldn't go well. I think I'd last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Mickey costume I couldn't do, but they wouldn't just make you head Mickey, would they?
Head Mickey?
Yeah, because they must have like
a job role.
They must have like head Mickey and then sub Mickey, like an actor thing, right?
Well, and then if like head Mickey gets injured, they're like, "You got the job, baby."
Yeah, right. Oh, he's gonna be out for 3 months. He broke his arms.
Yo, Mickey politics. People doing foul play to try and get that top Mickey spot.
There probably is. There's probably some serious misplay going on. But I mean, the sub Mickey might also just be like head Darth Vader or something. So you might be gutted when Mickey breaks his arms. And goes, oh fuck, I have to be Ed Mickey now.
But could you not be like, I'm already Darth Vader, can you not find another Mickey?
Well,
who's going to be Darth Vader?
I imagine it's like a scenario, right, where it's like Mickey's up here, Darth Vader's like middle ground, bottom tier is like Stormtrooper, one of the army men, you know, where you're like, where the kids go to you and go, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I guess. But they really want to see Mickey Mouse, because the Green Army Men suck. No, well, like Baloo the Bear is around that tier.
That's harsh. If I was a kid, I think he would rank a lot higher up.
What, from the Green Army Men?
Well, I like the Green Army Men as well.
No way. Metal Detector Man is top tier.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But he's top tier of the Army Men, that's the problem.
Yeah, but I'd still say he's pretty good. But Baloo the Bear's pretty up there.
Really?
Over, like... Now I gotta think of an example of someone I want to slag off.
I don't think there's many people, like, that much worse than Baloo the Bear.
The problem is I keep thinking of Toy Story characters, and they're all pretty good.
Maybe for some reason they bring the kid from Kingdom Hearts in. I'd rather see Baloo the Bear than him.
Yeah.
So, like, you're not even the most, like, impressive thing about Kingdom Hearts. It's the fact that...
I'd say apart from King Louie, he's the Jungle Book character I would want to meet most. Over Bagheera. I guess you can't really play the snake.
No, you look a little bit silly.
Can you even... No, wait, you can't play Bagheera either because you walks on all fours.
Fella. Is that King Louie?
Yeah. So I guess if you're going to dress as a Jungle Book character, you have to be King Louie or Baloo. Because they're the only characters that walk on two legs. Obviously, apart from the humans.
I've seen King Louie in Disney once, and he freaked me the fuck out.
Yeah,
they really
go
for it.
Yeah. They go all in. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be Sub-Monkey.
Sub-Monkey.
Yeah, there you go.
Or do you think they do it of zones? Like the Crystal Maze?
Zones?
Yeah, like there's a Star Wars zone. There's a...
Well, there is.
Kid zone. Yeah, but like that's how the tier list goes.
What? How do you mean?
Like Mickey's top dog.
Yes.
Top mouse. Then you got like Donald, Goofy, and Minnie, because all the homies love Minnie. What's Donald? Daisy Duck.
She can get in the bin.
Yeah, but Daisy fucks Donald, so you gotta be like, it's like guilty by association kind of thing. Wherever Donald is, Daisy follows.
I guess.
You know what it reminded me of the other day when I called you Goofy? So you remind me more of like Kid Goofy when you get angry about not being called Goofy. When you get angry at being called Goofy, because you know in Goofy's in the Goofy movie. Have you ever watched a Goofy movie?
No.
It's about his kid, and his kid don't want to be like Goofy because he thinks his dad's an idiot. And at the end, he wants to be like his dad. But you remind me of him.
Kid Goofy.
Because Goofy don't wear shorts. He wears trousers. Whereas Goofy Kid.
Goofy Kid.
Yeah. Goofy Kid wears shorts. And he wears cool sunglasses and he wears a hat. He's pretty cool.
Damn. I guess that is me.
Goofy movie and Meet the Robinsons.
Yeah.
What's the other one? I watched the end of Robots.
That was the Mormons' fault, but we'll do that story on the podcast another time. Oh man, that is a weird segue.
There's got to be a Mormon comic somewhere, right? That's for you to find out.
I don't know. So obviously, usually this would be the point where I was like, "Hey, remember that tease I did at the end of the last episode?" And this is what it is. And then we switched the order around so that we could do the Thor comic near Thor Love and Thunder coming out. So we'll do Batman as the next one, and then just go back to the schedule.
Sound good.
So we just switched them around because it made sense to do it now. Because literally, 2 days ago we both saw Love and Thunder.
At least two, right?
As I'll say in the intro, we're not gonna like spoil it until the end. Then we'll talk about the differences between the comic and the movie, and then obviously then we're gonna have to talk about stuff that actually happens. But what do you think about Love and Thunder? I think you liked it more than I did. I didn't really like it.
No, I think we discussed this, and it'll be a bigger thing, the more kind of things we do, and the longer this phase goes. But this phase sucks, in my eyes. And I think you put it in a perfect way is there's no big villain. You kind of look at everything that's going on, you go, okay, things are ticking.
Yeah.
If we go back to, as we mentioned in the Killing Joke episode, oh no, the last one that we did, where there's the Justice League bits and there's the Avengers bits, and then there's little tidbits in between.
Yeah.
Where they're
Like
not
the
real
spin-offs.
stories.
Yeah.
That's what I feel this phase is. So
Yeah.
it was fun. Was it better than Thor 2? Hell yeah. Was it better than Thor 1? No, I don't think so.
Yeah. I agree.
And then Ragnarok's top tier, so you can't really even touch that.
Yeah.
But overall, no. How do you find it anyway?
I feel like I really like the one thing of Phase 4 that I do like is that my biggest issue with the ending of Phase 3 was that some of the movies felt super similar. So I like that they're being like, we can go in different directions. We'll have Sam Raimi do a weird Doctor Strange movie that people will be like, what? We'll have Taika Waititi go like full comedy for Love and Thunder, which is like cool, but I feel like Love and Thunder, which obviously we'll talk about like what actually happens in the movie, but I feel like there was like no consequences for anything. It felt like everything that was built up to be something big or serious was just a joke, which is like Ragnarok does that a lot. Like the whole movie is like will go for punchlines over like serious moments.
I think it had more of a reason to do that, right? Because I mean,
it felt more of a shock, right? Because we hadn't seen Thor as like a comedic character.
We didn't know where Hulk was.
Yeah,
that was another big thing. So, and also that was coming to the end of Phase 3 Ragnarok, right? Because you needed to know how's Thor getting back into this and how's Hulk getting back into this, because they haven't been snapped yet. But where this, and I think we both agreed on it afterwards, the redeeming factor is Gorr the Butcher.
Yeah.
Which he was a good villain until the end, I'd argue.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Christian Bale did a great job.
Crazy.
Also, one thing that I saw someone say earlier, which I thought was really true, is in Thor Ragnarok, it felt like a lot of the comedy was like happening around Thor, and it was funny because he wasn't in on the joke. And this time around, he very much was he was the joke, and he was in on it. And I didn't find it nearly as funny as Ragnarok.
Nowhere near.
And it probably had more jokes. It felt a lot more like constant jokes to me. Whereas I felt like Ragnarok, most of the jokes landed really, really well, and this one felt like constant. And I was a bit like, I could do with some moments where, obviously, apart from the gore scenes, which tended to be like pretty dark, which I was pretty surprised by, to be honest, how far they went with it. Like, it was actually creepy. Like the scenes. This isn't a spoiler, so the scenes with him and the kids, I was like, that's actually like disturbing. Like, just his performance was incredible, but it just didn't. It didn't feel like it had any weight to it.
My argument for that would be Loki, right? Loki and Ragnarok. The thing between him and Chris Hemsworth is so good.
Yeah.
Like, they bounce off each other, and then Hulk also bounces off Thor. Whereas, and this is nothing against Natalie Portman, because she is a great actress, but as people know from the trailers, this isn't a spoiler either, female Thor is a thing. But it doesn't really feel like much, because why would you include that in the trailer? Because that's quite a big thing. Well,
I guess it would have been impossible to avoid, right?
Yeah, I guess. But hey, look, Valkyrie is still pretty cool in it. So
Yeah, just gave her nothing to do. I was
no, she really didn't have much. But the only spoiler I will say is Meek in a suit. Funny. Just he doesn't even do anything. He just looks funny.
To be fair, like I know that we're like trashing on it. It's not the worst MCU movie I've ever seen.
Oh,
Far from
no.
it. It was fine. I had high expectations for it because of Ragnarok, and I felt like it was a bit like, I talk about like it not being as funny. Again, not really a spoiler. The stuff between Thor and Mjolnir and Stormbreaker, where it's like the jealous ex-girlfriend, was great. Like, all of that stuff was so funny. I've seen like loads of people being like, don't let Taika Waititi direct another Marvel movie, like that's nonsense. He's great. I just think that this one came at a weird time where it was like Thor can't really do anything too impactful, and like it kind of felt like this isn't going anywhere.
The thing that Phase 4 has made me worried about, and the only thing I've liked about Phase 4, and if you can even count them really in it, is the Spider-Man films.
Yeah.
The Spider-Man films have carried so far,
Yeah.
but nothing that Marvel and solely Marvel have been involved in really doesn't feel like, apart from WandaVision, I guess. But apart from even Multiverse of Madness, it's a 50-50. If people like it, they do like it, and if people don't like it, they hate it. It's just a Marmite kind of thing. But it makes me worried about Guardians, which is a big thing, because obviously there were rumours of it basically being the last thing, and my worry about this phase is it purely to get rid of the old blood? Because if it is, are they doing it the right way? You might as well have just killed everyone off in Infinity War.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Somehow, because, I mean, comparing it, Captain America had an amazing send-off, Iron Man, amazing send-off, and you're having these other people where you're like, I don't know. Yeah. I'm not fully bought in yet to it, but... Oh, and if you haven't watched She-Hulk yet, it sucks.
Oh.
That's all I've got to say. That's all I've got to say about that. If anyone has any questions, give me a shout. But no, it just sucks.
So we moved this episode along so we could do Thor: God of Thunder, which I never used to like Thor comics because they're like the first two Thor movies where they're super serious and just like it's just like nonsense and boring. But I read this a few months ago because it is the debut of Gorr the God Butcher. And it only came out in like 2012, which I was like, oh, I didn't realize he was such a new villain, so I'll go back and read this. It's written by Jason Aaron, who I'm pretty sure his run on Thor ends this year. Like, that's how long he's been doing it at this point. Like, nearly 10 years of just writing Thor. He's the person who introduced Jane Foster as female Thor, like, all that stuff. His run is pretty much regarded as the best Thor run ever, and it starts with this. So this is like the first two stories that he does as part of his run, which is both Gorr the God Butcher stuff. It is really difficult, by the way. When I was like reading through my notes earlier, the amount of times that I've typed Gorr when I'm supposed to type Thor and the opposite way around. Like, why did he have to name them similar sounding words? I guess that's intentional, I don't know. But yeah, it's like, I mean, as you'll see, there's some stuff that they kept for the movie and a lot of stuff that they changed. Whether that's better or not in the comic or the movie, I mean, we'll talk about it at the end when we talk about spoilers and stuff. But it kind of reminds me of Old Man Logan in a little bit, where they're like, they took some of the initial ideas and then changed it for the movie to make it fit that world a bit more, which... Right. I think there's probably some things this does better, some things that the movie does better. It's a bit of both. But yeah, so Thor the God Butcher is the actual name of like the first part. And then I'm not going to tell you what the second part's called because I
imagine it would ruin it, right?
It does, but it's also like...
Funny?
It's a thing that they change massively in the movie. That is one of those things that you can do in a comic and not do in a movie. You'll see what I mean when we get there. But it's just like, it would be weird if it was a movie. So throughout this story, like, if you notice at the start, we start with like young Thor. What's the year? 893 AD. So we start with like really young Thor. And throughout it, we follow 3 Thors from 3 different times in his life. And it jumps between them all. But at the end of every issue, which you'll see, you get like a recap of what every Thor has done. So it sounds confusing, but it's done really, really well. So it opens in 893 AD with the youngest Thor, who he doesn't have Mjolnir yet because he's not worthy enough to wield it. So we're talking like first movie Thor, where you know how the first movie of Thor is like the whole thing is building up to him being like worthy enough to claim back Mjolnir and stuff, because he's cocky, he wants to solve every problem with a fight. He's like that in this, but in this he's like a Viking chief, so he's like
meant to be.
Everyone loves him that's in his group. They're all like, you're the like best warrior we've ever seen. All he does is get drunk and have fights. He's just like stereotypical Viking. Like that's like his whole thing. And one of the things that Jason Aaron changes like straight away is that you've noticed this, I'm sure, but like Marvel are weird with saying what gods exist in their universe. Like, so they had the Norse ones, then they had Roman, and then there's like religious ones. So like just like the religious like icons that people have. But then he expanded it so that like every planet and every species on each planet have all their own gods and stuff like that. Like, again, not a spoiler because it happens literally in like the first 5 minutes of the movie. You see a god in Love and Thunder who is like we've never seen before, who's not like a pantheon god, it's not like Ra or anything. Although obviously Zeus is in the movie from the trailers. So it's like there is gods. Everyone has their own gods, and they are real and they are gods. Like, gods are real completely, and there's more than just the ones that we choose to like acknowledge, sort of thing. Which obviously like Moon Knight is like a great example of that.
So that was the big thing that people were hoping for it to kind of come in, right?
Yeah.
I saw a lot of people on Instagram and stuff being like, Moon Knight started bringing in these Egyptian gods, but as soon as that Thor Love and Thunder trailer hit with Russell Crowe, they were like, oh, okay, all right, so gods are even in the MCU now a thing. So it just gives them more things to play with, right?
Yeah. So young Thor finds out that someone is killing gods. And he's like, well, I've got to find this person and I need to fight them. And we go to present day with our current Thor, like sort of, the one that in continuity of comics is Thor of the time. And he's basically helping this struggling race out that are on this planet, and they prayed to the gods. And one of the members of this race that he helps out are like, well, we prayed to our gods and they didn't answer. And he's like, well, that means they're either like false gods or something's wrong, because they should have answered your calls, sort of thing. So he goes to the place where all the gods of this planet live, and they're all dead, which I'm pretty sure we got in a frame, like in the movie. There was like a tiny little, when they first learned about Gorr the God Butcher, you see like little like images of loads of gods being dead, and one of them was like loads of bodies hanging from the ceiling, and that's like the same as in the comic, which I thought was pretty cool. So he's like, well, there's a lot of them that are dead in this place, and gods are incredibly hard to kill, so whatever is killing them is, extremely powerful. And then we finally go to the third Thor, which is the future Thor, who is now king of Asgard, but it is in like total ruins. He's the only person left there. It's been overrun by this army, which is basically the same army that Gorr has in the movie. They're just like these like
shadow
alien
people,
kind of
right?
Shadow creatures. And he's basically like just doing enough to keep them at bay. So every issue we get these little roundups where it goes through and stuff like that. And it kind of tells you the beginning, middle, and end of the story, and then pieces it together, sort of thing. So you see young Thor going after him for the first time, present day Thor realizing that something is back and killing gods, and then future Thor, where it seems like, obviously we know because it's Gorr, but whatever is killing these gods is winning in the future, sort of thing. So then, and basically, then the next issue will begin with going back to young Thor. So it kind of goes in a cycle. So young Thor encounters Gorr the God Butcher for the first time, bearing in mind that at this point, because he's young Thor, he's never faced like anything super powerful like this before, because he's not an Avenger or anything like that. Is the thing taking ages to load? It can do this sometimes. It's just the app. There you go. Yeah, so it gives you like a tiny little recap, and then So Gorr can kill gods because he has a weapon made for gods, which is called the Necrosword. Which, because obviously you can't kill a god with like any old blade. All of Gorr's dialogue in the book is really cool. You'll also notice that he looks very different to Christian Bale. I mean, he's still like super pale and like skinny, but he is like more alien and stuff than, obviously Christian Bale's just like a dude. That means that it's not gonna load, which I've never had this problem until today. So I don't know if there's like a problem with Marvel Unlimited, but you might just have to skip pages when that image comes up. I don't know what that's been doing today, but
well, he looks a lot more like Voldemort here, doesn't he?
His dialogue's really, really cool, and his like his whole idea is really similar to the movie in that he has nothing left to lose kind of thing. So he just wants to kill all of the gods. And also he loves talking about who he's already killed and how he's done it and things like that. So he eventually beats young Thor because young Thor is so cocky and over-aggressive. So Gorr gets the upper hand. And because of Thor, he now knows about Asgard. So he's like, I'm just going to add these to my little list. I'll get round to them at some point. So obviously that's a huge problem. And then we go back to present day Thor. He's still trying to work out what's happening. He kind of remembers fighting Gorr, but he believed that he killed him back when he first met him. So he travels to a place which we went to in the movie, which, again, it's not a spoiler, it's not a big deal. They go to Omnipotence City, where in this comic, it's it's like a huge library all about the gods. So instead of like a god's meeting place, it's like a library of just information about gods. And he uses it to find out where a bunch of gods should be. And everywhere he goes, they're already dead. Like by the time he can get there, basically, it doesn't matter like how big the gods are or how small they are, like how powerful they are. They're all dead every time he gets there. So obviously, he starts reflecting on the final fight he had with Gorr in the past, and he recalls the cave where he first met Gorr. So he goes there, and in the cave, there's this creature called Shadrach, who, when you find him in the comic, he's pretty funny. He's a pretty funny looking little guy. And Thor like asks him what he's the god of, and he kind of tells him but kind of doesn't. He basically just tells him he's the god of a bunch of like meaningless things. He tells him he's like a god of wine, but he also tells him he's like a god of like pancakes and I don't know, like a bunch of things. Basically, he's just like, I'm an irrelevant god. And he says that he managed to survive by hiding in this cave from Gorr, because, you know, why would Gorr expect him to come back, sort of thing. Why, you know, he wouldn't think that a god is hiding in Gorr's own cave, sort of thing. That would be incredibly stupid. So that's how he survived. So they go back to the library because, and this is where the plot goes a bit crazy.
This moth dude, right?
That's I can't remember what his name is. He's the keeper of the librarian. I think his name's Lucian. Or am I thinking of Sandman? Or are they the same guy? I don't know. He's just like the keeper of the library. When you see Shadrach, you'll know it's Shadrach, because only someone that looks like that could be called Shadrach. So like, this is just him like finding all of the dead gods and stuff, and yeah, some of it's pretty crazy. Oh yeah, he meets up with Iron Man. I can't really remember what happens with that, to be honest. There he finds the cave. And this is where the plot kind of gets a little bit crazy. Him and Shadrach go back to the library together because they want to find these time controlling gods who can help them go back in time to fix the first time that Thor met Gorr. Because Shadrach says that this is Thor's fault, and it's something to do with the first time he met Gorr.
Right.
So there's these time traveling gods I think they're called the Chronos gods, and that's their whole thing, is they're just gods of time travel. So they need to try and find these guys so they can go back. We go back to the past and see young Thor when he was captured by Gorr, and he tortures him because Gorr needs to find out how to get to Asgard, basically, so that he can kill all of them. And he wants to know where it is and just stuff like that. And then in the future, we're watching what we think is Thor's last stand, fighting against the Horde, and they beat him, but then they put him back on his throne and kind of leave him to recover so that they can fight him again, knowing he can never win. So even though it seems like he's barely defending it, they're kind of letting him keep Asgard for the time being, which you don't really know why. And then for a little bit of the story, we go with Gorr, who is also trying to go back in time, or time travel somewhere. So he finds the Chronos gods first, which they all look ridiculous. Because time travel gods, you know, they gotta look silly. They gotta have silly hats.
They look a bit like the Rick fellers in Rick and Morty. Remember when he messes something up?
I guess it's just the thing with like people who are in charge of like time travel. They always got to have like a silly hat or something.
Oh, you got it right.
I guess so. So he wants to kill the time traveling gods so that he can use their blood to time travel. I guess their blood is what makes them able to time travel. I don't know, but he wants it.
That's pretty bloody metal.
Yeah. He wants to go back to the formation of all things, like creation itself, using the time travel god's blood, when the original Elder God was around. So,
Who's Elder God?
the Elder God gave birth to more Elder Gods, and then that goes on and on and on, and that's why there's so many gods. So each Elder God that gets born of another... because an Elder God gives birth, and then the two Elder Gods that come after it are like, they share... I think it's for each one that gives birth to another one, it's
Power
like
is
half the
halved.
power. Yeah. So they get weaker and weaker. So that's why there's so many gods now. But the original Elder Gods were like insanely powerful. They died because it's like the typical like gods story where they just got greedy of each other's power and stuff like that and fought amongst each other and all killed each other.
Just like
So
greedy
they're
little
not around.
kids.
They're not around anymore. It's only their kids that survived, which are like the gods that are in this universe kind of thing. Or maybe the descendants of, but yeah. So he wants to go back to the original Elder Gods, kill one, steal his heart, and he can take his power. Because for every god that he kills, he gets stronger. He kind of like takes a bit of their power. So he's like, well, that's going to be the best way to get as powerful as I can, like as fast as possible. Because it's just like, it's also like he's like testing himself kind of thing. He's like, I can kill gods all day, so why don't I go and try and kill a super powerful Elder God?
Yeah, like if I can kill all these guys.
And also it's like he's never satisfied. He's like, all his thing that he constantly says is all gods must die. He's like, I don't care if you're the god of like trees or you're a god of war, I will kill all of you. Like, I don't care. So, for him he's just like, if there's more gods, I'll go kill them.
Does it get mentioned why he's as pissed as he is?
Yeah, so there's an issue coming up which is all about Gorr.
Okay, alright.
Which is just a straight up origin. Yeah. So the idea that Thor caused this, like what Shadrach says, is because Gorr hadn't really faced a real test until he fought Thor for the first time, and Thor was able to put up a good fight, because Thor is one of the most powerful gods in the whole universe because of his like will to fight and keep fighting kind of thing. So because of their first fight, when young Thor kind of held his own, Gorr is like, okay, I need to be as strong as I possibly can so that no god can challenge me, which is where he comes up with the idea of killing an elder god to take its power.
Right.
So it's not really fair to blame Thor for that. He was going to kill gods anyway. He's just killing a lot of gods because he's like, I want all the power I can possibly get first, and then nobody can stop me. That kind of typical thing. So they chase after Gorr through time, and modern day Thor ends up in the future. So the two of them team up and they kind of like start fighting through Asgard and stuff like that. And then after that is where we should get to the origin of Gorr, which, like I said, I'm pretty sure gets its whole own thing. Yeah, there's like a fight in between and stuff like that. But so the origin of Gorr jumps back 3,000 years to the best way I can describe the planet he lives on, just like the opening scene of the movie, is he lives on a Warhammer 40k planet where life just sucks. It's like there's no food, there's no water, the sun is insane, like nothing good is happening on this planet. There's loads of like insanely dangerous predators, and the inhabitants are all nomads, so they just have to travel between these like huge plains to try and live. So they pray to the gods regularly. Like, the only way they survive is because of their faith in the gods and that they'll make it through the day.
Wow, in this they really look like
Who's the sexy one in Star Wars?
Oh,
The one with the
Aayla
Aayla Secura.
Yeah, they do.
so
fair.
the aliens. Well, Gorr looks like a sexy alien. Is that what I'm trying to say?
That. I was just about to talk about when he's a kid and now his mother gets eaten, but
oh man.
So yeah, she gets eaten, and And he starts to kind of, have a little bit of lack of faith in the gods. When he's older, they're travelling to and from a place, and his pregnant wife steps on some loose rocks, like skipping stones into Takeshi's castle, and that's it. She's done. She goes face first into it.
She tries to be like Legolas, but
unfortunately, gravity.
She's not an elf, so
yeah.
R.I.P.
So she falls and dies, and at this point, this is like where Gorr's had enough, right? Because he's lost everything that matters to him. His oldest son dies as well because there's no food or water. But again, the rest of the tribe, they survive just through like faith alone, sort of thing. But Gorr is like had enough. He starts questioning whether the gods even exist, and he stands up with basically the old, the standard argument that people always use against people who believe in gods, which is like, well, if there is a god, why do people suffer so much? And that's like Gorr's whole thing. It's like, if there are gods, then like what? This isn't fair on us. And the tribe turn on him. They class that as heresy, so they like chuck rocks at him and stuff because they really care about them gods, despite their lives being absolutely terrible. And so he's on the verge of dying on this planet, completely alone. And like I said, it's just a terrible time. And these two gods show up next to him that are fighting to the death. And obviously this sends like Gorr completely over the edge, because he's like, they do exist, they just don't care because they're too busy fighting amongst themselves and things like that, which is like, obviously it's just like a huge motivation thing for him. I think it's also like a bit of a commentary on like Thor comics in general, because Thor's meant to be this great god, and yet you never see him really help anyone. He's always there with the Avengers fighting, but he doesn't really, you never really see him do much else apart from just fight people with the Avengers, right? Instead of like helping out struggling planets like that one and stuff. And one of the gods survives the fight. Obviously one of them dies in it, and he's like, why would I help you when you didn't come to my aid when I was praying to you and stuff like that? So he takes the power of the dead god, which is where he gets the Necro Sword from, which the Necro Sword, it doesn't cover it in this comic, and I kind of thought it might be a little tease in Love and Thunder, which it isn't. It's not a spoiler because not many people would have known this is a thing anyway.
You're going to say the thing that I found out, right?
Maybe.
Not only is it like one of the most powerful weapons in the universe, but isn't it also a symbiote?
Yeah.
Like it takes control of the owner, same with Venom.
Yeah.
Kind of that.
I think it is partially responsible for the birth of Venom. I think that's where the Venom symbiote comes from.
Here's my question. Right. Because it wasn't done in the movie. That's not a spoiler.
No, because it's not like, it wasn't a big rumour.
If you hit a bunch of bells around this, could you defeat the Necro Sword?
I don't know how that works.
Because that's not that impressive.
No, that would.
I think I could beat Gorr.
Spoiler for the end of Thor: Love and Thunder. It doesn't end with him hitting the hammer on like large poles.
Give me a triangle, I'll beat his ass.
Yeah. Oh man, the god of triangles, the god of scaffolding would have him.
Yeah, you say he takes every god. He avoids the triangle xylophone as well. Bells in general.
Yeah, he just avoids all percussion-related gods.
Bill Bailey as well. That's a really UK reference. That
one. One for the kids. That one. So he gets the Necro Sword and he uses it obviously to kill the other god who lived through the fight. And then we go to, he's torturing this guy. I can't remember who this guy is. I think he's someone else from Thor comics. I can't remember how significant he is. But he basically hits Gorr with the ultimatum of like, well, if you have the power of God and you're capable of killing all of these gods, does that not make you a god? And like that like snaps Gorr. He like instantly kills him. He's had enough of torturing him. And then that's kind of the first like part of, that's like Thor and the God Butcher. And then you know how I didn't want to tell you the name of like the second part of it?
Mm-hmm.
The second part of it, I want to see if it comes up on the thing. Does it actually have it as listed as this issue? Yeah. God Bomb.
Okay. I like how it says God Bomb Part 1 as well.
Yeah. It sets it up. So this is like, it leads directly on. But we're in the future now with future Thor. There's probably some stuff with young Thor as well. It's not too important. Gorr killed an elder god, so he is super powerful now.
Yikes.
And King Thor explains that 900 years ago, Gorr invaded Asgard, took them all prisoner apart from Thor. I should say that King Thor, him being King Thor, means he is also insanely powerful, because for him to become king, it means that Odin is dead, because of Ragnarok happens. And Ragnarok's confusing in comics. You think it's a one-time event, right? Ragnarok happens and it's the end. It's actually a cycle, so it happens time and time again.
I think they made that like a. It wasn't a. They didn't make it very obvious, but it was a kind of thing where in the films you knew that Ragnarok wasn't just a one-time thing.
Yeah,
they all come back, but
so because Odin is dead in this story, his power gets passed down. But the thing with having what do they call it? Is it the Odin Force?
Odin Force.
Is that what it's called?
Wow. Okay, I know.
I think it is.
I know we said we were going to get silly comics, but
Odin Thor comics are ridiculous.
Right.
I don't know if you'll remember this. I don't remember which Thor movie it's in. It's in 1 or 2. I think it's in 2, and that's why things at Asgard get like way out of hand. Oh no, it's the first one I think, and that's why the frost giants become an issue. If you have the Odin, the Odin Force. The problem is I'm thinking of the Speed Force, which is what the Flash uses.
Speed Force.
We'll do a Flash comic, don't worry about it. But Odin, I think this is a thing in Norse mythology as well. He has to do the Odin sleep, which is basically like he goes into like hibernation for a while and it recharges his power because he's so powerful. Yeah, yeah. And so the reason that Gorr is constantly invading Asgard but not taking it is because it means that King Thor can't rest. So he is really depleted of his power. So even though he should be insane, he should be as powerful as Odin, he isn't, because he hasn't had time to hibernate, basically, to get it back, because they won't leave him alone. Every time he's like, I've dealt with you, they're like, well, we kind of let you win, and then they come back and fight him again. So they're just like keeping him right on the edge of not being able to like recharge, kind of thing.
Right.
So modern Thor shows up with future Thor, and it kind of like reinvigorates future Thor a bit, and past Thor shows up in this time period as well. The reason he's there is really dumb. He gets teleported by one of Gorr's black berserkers, which is what they're called, who hits him with like a plot device thing. So he's in the future now, and he gets turned into a slave for Gorr's army. So that the few prisoners that Gorr does keep, which I think is mostly Asgardians, he's using them to build the God Bomb. Which makes me laugh every time. But, you know, did you see what I said about the God Bomb? Again, we'll talk about what the actual movie did for Gorr's final plan, which was very different. But you couldn't do in a movie, maybe Taika Waititi could get away with it. I think maybe James Gunn could get away with it. But a lot of audiences would be like, God Bomb?
I think God Bomb is a limit. Right? Yeah. I completely understand where you meant comics could probably get away with it. I think the comic book audiences are quite more reasonable on dumb shit. Yeah. Whereas I say that, but Meek is like one of them. Meek and Korg are like basically Thor now.
Yeah.
I think that's the big thing people are preferring, right? But God Bomb. So they're gonna. So what's the plan? So basically, do they put gods in this to power the God Bomb?
No.
Or they just bring in all the gods, so
they're just using the gods or like the people he's captured to build it. So modern Thor and King Thor find out about the God Bomb because this is being built in the future. And the God Bomb will kill every god in every time stream when it explodes. So it will do what he wants to do. It will kill every single god in the past and in the future.
How's he done that?
So I think, I don't remember whether they mentioned this. I assume it's partly to do with the time travel gods that he killed to get to the future in the first place. Something to do with them.
Right.
Because obviously it kills gods from like the past who are he's not met and then things like that. Obviously it kills all the ones there, but it kills ones in like every universe.
Probably
so it erases everything.
The time traveler's blood, right?
it also is because Shadrach, who we met ages ago, he didn't just survive by hiding in the cave, which Gorr first fought Thor in. He eventually the I think it's the librarian who like shakes it out of him and finally makes him and like gets him. He finally reveals that the only way that he could survive is that because he isn't actually the god of wine and pancakes and every other thing he said, he's the god of bombs.
God of bomb. He's the god of bombs.
Yeah,
Shadrach.
the little goblin guy, which is hilarious.
God of bombs.
Yeah.
Nah, man. He got a slime, maybe, or something.
The god of ooze.
God of goblins. That would have been like you going, oh yeah, that's sick.
Yeah.
God goblin doesn't sound as cool though. Anyway, carry on.
So Gorr has a son, like a new son that isn't dead now, and his son tells young Thor, who is being held captive and being made to make the god bomb. He tells Thor about the plan and how it will make the world better because there'll be no fighting about whose gods are real and whose aren't. There'll be no waiting around for people like waiting for gods to save them. They'll just act on their own, and they'll kind of like they'll value the things they have more instead of being like, well, hopefully a god will save me from this or whatever, So
it's like arguing people.
Little Gorr has been brainwashed into thinking like, I mean, you can kind of like, I say brainwashed. If you say it like that, it sounds very good. Obviously, to do that, he has to kill all of the gods. But Gorr's actual idea is not just that he hates gods and wants to murder them. He thinks the world will be better without the world kind of looking up to these people who don't really care. He's like, we'll be better off appreciating what we have and not fighting amongst each other. We'll be better together because there'll be, no
excuse.
And also there'll be nobody better than us kind of thing. So it's like we're no longer like not capable of looking after ourselves kind of thing, I guess. Which is like, I mean, it's obviously like flawed, but
I get it on like our planet, for example.
Yeah.
But going back to the Gorr planet, gods or not, you're fucked. Like, I'm sorry, but you're just gonna get eaten or fall off pregnant.
Yeah. Sketch's castle. Yeah, you're doomed on that planet. So that's very true. But yeah, so he explains the plot to young Thor, who then meets King Thor's granddaughters, because remember we're in the future at the moment, who they're also slaves, but they're planning an uprising. And young Thor is young Thor, so he's just like, why don't we just go punch them all in the face and get out of here? And they're like, no, we gotta lay low. So they're like, keep your mouth shut and be patient, and they're gonna make a bomb of their own to blow up the god bomb.
You can see where they're coming from.
So they're like, hey, young Thor, look, this is the bomb we're making. Just, stay patient and eventually we'll blow it up. And he's like, oh, cool bomb. And he just like yeets it and then just runs off with the bomb. And he's like, I'm just going to go blow it up because I don't need anyone else kind of thing. And then he gets teleported. I can't remember why he gets teleported. But he shows up with modern Thor and I put old Thor, but you know what I mean, King Thor,
right?
Yeah. And they're just confused, and they all team up, and they're like, right, we got to go stop Gorr. So they have like a big fight, like the three of them versus Gorr, which is pretty cool, to be honest. And obviously Gorr is insanely powerful at this point, but so are each individual Thor. So it's a tough fight, because like I said, Thor is like insanely powerful compared to other gods. So what Gorr does is he realizes it's going to be tough to beat the Thors, so he starts executing the slaves because, like I said, when he kills one, he gets a bit of their power, so he's making himself more strong and things like that. But it's still not working, and they all kind of get catapulted towards the sun because it just gets out of hand, Gorr finally beats them, like for a second, he gets like a moment, and it seems like all hope is lost, right? And it goes to Gorr being with his current wife. And he's like, I can't wait until there's no gods. Like, this is going to be so cool. Everything that I said is going to be better is going to be better. Like, this god bomb plan, wow, it's a doozy, And she's like, yeah, like, that's pretty cool, man. And she says, you are my god. and he instantly kills her right in front of the son because he hates that. Right? That's like the one thing he doesn't want to be. Who, like, the son is like, yeah, the God Bomb's gonna be sick. But after seeing that, he's like, yeah, it's gonna be really cool, but you did just kill my mum right in front of me. So, you know, you get like a little glimpse that maybe he's not on board. So modern Thor gets rescued from a mountain by Gorr's son, which, like I said, you can kind of see that he's not on board anymore with the whole plan. And Gorr's son is like, I'll help you kill my father, kind of thing. He's like, this has gone too far. Which seems like a bit of a jump, I guess, but, you know, they're wrapping it up. So Gorr's son is I suppose the parallel is that Gorr's son is basically the innocence that Gorr had before he lost everything, you know? Like, because Gorr did, before he lost everything, he did, like, care for his family and his, like, his little group and stuff like that. It's only that being taken away from him that drove him crazy. He wasn't, like, bored evil sort of thing. So, you know, young Thor... See, this is what I mean. Young Gorr is, like, you know, he's, like, innocent because he's not really had anything bad happen to him and stuff like that. And then suddenly he gets his mother taken away and that snaps him.
So basically, the way you can see it is it's kind of come bit him on the ass.
It's like
Gorr is now being seen as a god because he's so powerful.
And both him and his son snapped because of someone, like, abusing their power kind of thing, right? So that's what the thing is. And the three Thors regroup and each of them start fighting Gorr, and they kind of get defeated. Well, the old Thor and young Thor get defeated, and modern Thor's the only one left. So he picks up King Thor's hammer. So he now has two. Right. He's gonna go bonk him on the head because now he's got two, you know. So he smashes them together, which, like, I don't know if they ever really, like, Mjolnir in comics is, like, insanely powerful. Like, in movies it's pretty good, right? But then obviously he got Stormbreaker and suddenly that's, like, even better. But Mjolnir in comics is, like, crazy. So he smashes them together, which destroys the God Bomb. And in doing so, in hitting Gorr with it, he absorbs the Necro Sword at the same time. So he gets all of Gorr's power, which makes him basically, like, the ultimate god. And he's now super edgy looking because of the Necro Sword. So there's, like, Thor, but he's, like, all coated in black. Which is really dumb. But it, you know, it's pretty cool at the same time. But, like, he basically just makes himself, like unkillable at that point. And Gorr is left, obviously, without his power. He is just crawling on the floor, unable to do anything. His son shows up, kind of as, like, the whole, like, I got you, dad, sort of thing. Like, hey, it was me that beat you in the end, which is, like, not true. You know. And then his son disappears. So it's revealed that Gorr's son was never actually a physical being and his son. He was a construct created by the Necro Sword, kind of as, like, the last part of Gorr's, like, remaining... Humanity is the wrong word because obviously he's an alien, but the last part of his conscience, maybe. The last part of him that... The whole reason he's doing this is because of what happened to his family, and he wants kind of, like, justice for that. That's why he's so motivated.
So the whole thing with symbiotes as a whole, right, is that they touch onto a host and they basically
amplify.
They amplify, then also kind of, like, suck all the life out of that being. So I'm guessing that was, like, this last bit of life, right?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. So the Necro Sword had made him completely, like, twisted and evil, and then that was, like...
That was the last straw. If he had chopped that, then that would have been consumed.
So I guess, I don't know, I've never really thought about this too deeply, but I suppose, because if it was created by the Necro Sword, is it kind of the last part of Gorr that is kind of, like... Because, obviously, his son isn't real, but his son is the one that tells Thor about the plan. So is it Gorr... the part of Gorr that isn't consumed by the Necrosword. Like, the tiny little bit left of him that is like, I have gotten too powerful and I have become a god. Like, I have become the thing I hated. Because if his son isn't real and it's a construct of the Necrosword, why would it betray him?
I guess because he's now, after that image, then this whole thing happened. Maybe that bit of self-doubt. Symbiotes aren't dumb, are they? Let's be honest. Cause,
Yeah.
I mean, the problem is I'm going off symbiotes from Venom, and the Venom films aren't very good.
Not a good week for the Venom films.
But, but the problem, the thing is, the symbiotes is obviously they care more about themselves than their host.
Yeah.
So if the host, Gorr in this sense, starts doubting himself, why would you, as the thing amplifying this host's power, really trust it?
Yeah.
So obviously it might have gone, okay, if you can defeat these three, then hey, right, easy.
Yeah.
But it's probably like a final test at that point, right?
I suppose it's like a thing that I don't know if it ever gets answered, but like, just because he's a construct of the Necrosword, does that mean he can think for himself, or is it the Necrosword controlling everything? I don't know.
Okay.
I would assume he is like an individual. He's just not an actual being that is like birthed, but he can think for himself. So I guess like he makes up his own mind. But yeah, that is a bit weird. But it basically ends there with young Thor cuts off Gorr's head, and Asgard basically becomes like a beacon for all of the gods who are still alive to kind of regroup and, you know, like just join up and be like, hey, we made it. We made it through that.
New God City.
Kind of. Yeah, a little bit. And that's where the Gorr the God Butcher stuff ends. For the Jason Aaron run. There you go.
Wow.
So now we can talk spoilers for. Oh, does he walk? He walks away with the sun, right? In these panels here, right? I don't think I've
this
ever
is in the
noticed.
sun, basically.
Oh, is it just he
looking
goes to
at-
help another planet, right?
It was one of the planets he originally helped, and
Yeah.
finding it. I think it was one of the aliens he first spoke to, and obviously he's gone back and then it's kind of like reminiscing what he's done for him, and then explained the whole situation.
Yeah.
How right?
So we can talk spoilers for Love and Thunder now.
My main thing before we go into that
Yeah.
is you find out that your god's dead, but the planet next to you's god isn't dead. Would you just start praising that god, or do you just go, I guess we'll go on our own and just see how it goes? And
Would the god even like
be rebirthed?
well, if you start praying to another god, but only because your god is dead, is that god gonna be? Because I mean, obviously, there's a pretty. I was gonna say that. Is that god gonna be like welcome you with open arms, or is he gonna be like, you're only praying for me because your god's dead? I'm not helping you just because you don't have one anymore. And considering this is Marvel and they do like to make most gods look like just assholes who don't care about anyone, I feel like that is what would happen. They'd be like, you're only praying to me because you need it, not because you actually.
Can gods give birth now?
That's a good question.
Because I guess they.
I think they can, but they're not like.
I mean, they'd be
they're not as powerful.
significantly weaker than all the rest of the
And
gods.
like the line from them to the elder gods must be like it goes on forever, sort of thing. So like, yeah, the elder gods are like completely irrelevant now. It's been so long, sort of thing. Like they are at the birth of creation. So
there's a lot of differences.
yeah. You see what I mean about like Old Man Logan? How it's like an initial idea. So this will just carry on Jason Aaron's Thor run.
Oh right.
So that's all the Gorr stuff, and then like I said, he did the whole Jane Foster becoming Thor stuff, and he's been doing it for like 10 years, and he's still not done. So he's been writing Thor for a long time.
So, firstly, I guess the big thing is which one do you prefer?
Yeah. I don't know if I would say I prefer, but I understand why they didn't do the God Bomb.
Yeah.
Because that would be silly. However, I didn't like. It feels weird that we can talk about spoilers because we haven't, like, apart from when we first came out of the movie, I haven't spoken about it. But I didn't like Gorr's final plan either, but not necessarily the whole concept of him going to Eternity to ask for the wish. It felt really like out of left field. It was like he's just killing the gods, and then it was like half an hour before the end when he had captured all the kids. It was like, oh, and he's going to Eternity, and I was like, why wouldn't you mention that? Like,
where does Eternity get mentioned? Because obviously it wasn't mentioned here.
No, Eternity has nothing to do with that comic. Eternity is like just shows up in cosmic stuff and is like one of the most powerful beings there is.
Do they? Sorry, that's a separate question. So, but what I don't like about the film rather than this is Gorr's plan does not change in the comics. He's still, I want to kill gods, I want to go.
Yeah.
And it makes sense because he still has the Necro sword in this.
Yeah.
In a sense. And then obviously the big Mjolnir smash. Big Mjolnir smash, that's funny. And then Thor absorbs the Necro sword. But in the film, for some reason, they now make Mjolnir one of the best weapons instead of it being mediocre in the films.
Yeah.
Whereas it then kind of sucks all the Necro sword, but then they smash it on the floor to then break the Necro sword instead.
I forgot about that. Yeah, that's weird.
And you're kind of like, okay.
Yeah, I totally forgot about
that. I didn't like the way the Necro sword kind of went out, because that is the end of the Necro sword.
Yeah, I guess
it's dead.
Yeah.
But I guess in the comics it probably plays. Does it go ever past this?
Yeah, like I said, it eventually I've not read the comic that it's actually in, but eventually they tie it round to how the Necro sword is like the basis for the symbiote. So that comes later. This is the first introduction of it, and then later on down the line that happens. So they do bring it back. Like, I think Gorr comes back as well. They do a few more stories with Gorr, but
so how the hell is the MCU gonna do that?
I guess they're just not doing it at all, which like is fine. I don't think it's like a thing that necessarily needed to happen, but that's when we said at the start about how I felt like there wasn't enough stakes. It didn't feel like it was like enough was on the line. When you consider how powerful the Necro sword should be, like you said, it does kind of feel like it's just a bit like, I mean, it's kind of the same as in the comic where it's just like, oh, Thor's absorbed it now. But it is very much like, oh, it's smashed.
I mean, it smashed. Yeah, that's funny. The dumbest thing in the movie, which we will talk about now, is the kids. So basically, for everyone listening, there's, as Carl mentioned right at the start, Gorr's basically taken a bunch of Asgardian kids, and basically to draw out Thor. Right, to bring them to him, bring him to his shadow realm, which again doesn't get talked about here, but the shadow realm just sounds cool. Probably because
it looked cool as well, the black and white. Cool. I thought that was wicked.
Maybe because it was mentioned in Yu-Gi-Oh so much. Like I've got this obsession with the shadow realm.
It just sounds cool, you know. Yeah.
But it's a really good plan, and then Gorr's at the point of basically winning, and then of course you have your hero thing. But basically the kids are there. Gorr then teleports the kids out, and then they're basically now at the Wall of Eternity because he manages to steal Stormbreaker still.
Yeah.
The dumbest thing is this Thor giving the people powers and then all the kids managing to kill all the very scary shadow demons which were killing normal Asgardian people.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I just think it's one of the things that the movie has, which is like tonally the movie feels really weird. Like, it's funny and fun, but then you've got Gorr, and then you're like trying to balance it, and that's why I had the issue where I didn't feel like there was enough at stake, which I get. Like, don't get me wrong, it's a fun MCU movie, whatever. It's a Taika Waititi movie. It's going to be really funny, but it felt to me like there wasn't really that much on the line. Which, even though the Jane Foster stuff, and that's another thing with the weird tone stuff, you'd have like Thor and Jane Foster having like really funny, like it was funny. Like romantic comedy stuff, and then also you'd have that, and you're like, oh, that's really funny that they're like, no, you left first, and that whole thing. But then also occasionally you would get like beats of, I'm gonna die doing this mission, and be like, this. and I guess this also plays into not feeling like that it felt big enough, like anything that happened. I really don't care about Thor and Jane Foster's relationship because it's so badly done in the first two Thors.
You take that back. Thor Dark World is amazing. No.
God, the Natalie Portman scenes in Thor the Dark World are so painful as well.
I feel Natalie Portman was done dirty in the MCU.
Yeah.
I mean, she was done dirty in Star Wars as well. So, you know, she's just been done dirty quite a lot.
That's all.
Yeah, actually. Now I've said that out loud. Yeah, I'll have to take that back. But it's just, she was never written well. So now she's in this film. I feel it was just a reason to kill her off so people stop talking about Jane Foster.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like I mean, you brought something which everyone... I mean, it was only recently that female Thor was a thing, right? Only a couple of years ago. And I've heard it's actually kind of gone on quite a lot since, and everyone's like, oh, wow. But no, I guess there is no female Thor. It's a bit annoying.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also, I think the problem, as you mentioned right at the start again, is Taika Waititi, people saying he shouldn't direct another MCU film.
Mm.
I think he shouldn't write ones where you have a serious villain. Like, imagine if he did Infinity War. I'm sorry, but that would probably be one of the worst films going.
Yeah, that would be weird.
His whole thing is, I mean, if you gave him Guardians, I think he would have made something almost or close to the James Gunn versions.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. Because the humour of it, and of James Gunn, obviously, with Guardians 2, managed to flip it a little bit, because obviously, with Guardians 2, you have the more serious.
Yeah.
But I think Taika Waititi couldn't do that.
No.
Whereas Gorr, it was either funny or super serious. Not a funny too serious. It was just a black and white, which is funny because the shadow realm and stuff.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I don't know. It's weird because the Thor comic takes it completely serious. Like, there's no jokes in Thor comics. They're always super serious. Which I think, like, them changing the tone for Ragnarok was a fantastic thing. But I think that tone works so well for the movie that Ragnarok is. Like, the whole, like, janky sci-fi kind of stuff that they go down, and, like, you've got Jeff Goldblum in the movie and stuff like that. Like, it works. And then Thor God and Love and Thunder is such a, like, apart from, like, elements to it, like we haven't even talked about Russell Crowe doing, like, a racist Greek accent.
yeah, I was very, very questionable.
Like, do Greek people not watch MCU movies?
The problem is when you see Zeus, you don't really see him. You see the back of him for ages. And I was thinking, when you first started doing the racist Greek voice, you're going. I initially thought, he must have been someone else. Russell Crowe must have played someone else. Must have played, like, someone bigger. Maybe another lightning god that I don't know about. And then, no. It just pans to the face, and you're like, oh, you are just straight up doing a racist Greek impression. Okay. Alright. And, yeah. Very confusing. But, yeah, that's the good thing about Taika Waititi movies, though, right? That is the good end that he does.
Yeah.
Whereas it felt like his Gorr stuff... I mean,
he got a really good. I say he got a great performance out of Christian Bale. I'm pretty sure I could get a great performance out of Christian Bale by just, like, sticking a camera in front of him. But I thought that stuff was so well done. I didn't expect that side to it because it's a Taika Waititi movie. I've never seen him do that kind of thing.
He's never
I thought that was really, really well done.
He's never done something very serious, has he?
But it does feel like, and a lot of his movies are set up to be this way, so it works perfectly. Like Jojo Rabbit is like. There are parts which could be really serious, but instead it's like, instead of going down this emotional point which you think we're going to go down, we're going to turn it into a punchline, and it's like, it keeps the movie fun and it's so good. But for this one, it just didn't work that well for me. It felt like we were finally going to get to, like, a big moment or something, and then it would just be a joke, which meant that it was a fun enough movie to watch. Like, I probably won't watch it again, but I wasn't sat there like, oh, this is, like, awful. I was like, yeah, this is fine, but it didn't. I can't imagine having any lasting impact apart from Russell Crowe's racist Greek accent. The goats were funny.
Oh, the screaming goats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Christian Bale's performance was great.
Dwayne.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dwayne. Korg's gay, by the way.
Yeah, that was pretty hilarious.
I saw people on Twitter going, oh yeah, look, Korg's gay, making it a big thing, and you're kind of like going, I mean, firstly, MCU making things kind of like PC lately. It's a thing. They'll do it, but they didn't make it in a way to be like, oh yeah, he's gay. It's more just no. That's just how his species rolls. They are all men.
Yeah.
But it's funny how they put a nice little mustache, like a porno 70s mustache on a rock creature. I thought that was impressive. I didn't think they could do that. Didn't think they could pull it off.
Yeah.
But the big thing that I really didn't like was, I mentioned right at the start, is Gorr's end, which I thought was it's a real downer for me, and it proper killed the vibe for me, because what happens right at the end is he gets to eternity, he manages to actually break the seal, and he's actually straight up, he's at the god. He's like, I can make my wish now. Jane Foster then is dying of cancer and is just like lying there being like, this was fun, eh, Thor? And Thor's like, I choose love, not hate. And then Gorr's like, you know what? That's a good shout.
Yeah.
And then suddenly goes, I wish for my daughter to come back.
Yeah.
Where's the twist come? Just because Thor's now gone, I choose love though. And then Gorr goes, you know what?
It felt really sharp, right?
It was just, there was, as like blunt as we're putting it, it felt blunt.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't.
There was no inkling of like, there wasn't a part where you see him talking to one of the kids maybe, and like he gets a vision of his daughter being the kid sat in front of him or something, and you're like, he's doing this, but secretly there's a part of him that just wants his daughter back. He wants to kill all the gods, but you know, like that's kind of on his brain as well. You don't get like anything like that. He just literally is just like, maybe I don't want to kill all the gods. Maybe,
yeah, exactly.
Maybe they ain't so bad. I'd rather my daughter lives on and gets to have her life.
So the thing we didn't mention was right at the start. It's very similar to the comic where he lives on a crappy planet and all.
Yeah.
But instead of him having a wife and a tribe and all this, it's just him and his daughter.
Yeah.
That's it. And his daughter eventually succumbs to hunger, basically
Exhaustion, whatever it is, yeah.
and just dies. So he's at the end of it. He's like, I'm still religious. I'm still zealous. This is what I am.
Yeah.
And then he straight up accidentally discovers the gods.
Yeah.
Because the Necrosword starts whispering from within, because the Necrosword is actually being killed by one of the gods.
Yeah.
So he then walks in, he finds the god that he's been praying to all this time, and he's a dick.
The god is just a dick, yeah.
He's going, oh yeah, all you guys are dead. Nah, more of you will come though.
Yeah.
And that's what flips him.
Yeah.
But then that's also what makes the ending so...
Yeah.
And then right at the end, Gorr's dead because he's basically succumbed to his wounds. Jane Foster dead. She did go into god dust, sorry, and she's now in Valhalla. But now you've got Gorr's daughter, who has powers of some sort, with Thor now teaming up.
Yeah.
Which is another thing that I couldn't understand. Which I'm like, I guess now Thor wants to be a dad, because that was the whole thing of like, oh, he loves Jane, he wants to start a family.
Yeah.
But it's really quick.
Yeah.
I feel like the last 10-15 minutes you haven't explained any of this.
No. The whole narrative of with Thor wanting to like settle down always seemed like it was more to do with Jane as well. It was never about like, there wasn't like hints of like he just wants a family. It was always like Jane, and then he's like, oh, I'll just like adopt you as my daughter. That's fine. One of the things that I've got to be honest, it shouldn't make the film more enjoyable, but I didn't actually realise this until today. The little girl is Chris Hemsworth's daughter.
Is it?
I was like, that's really sweet. Like, that makes it more... If I'd known that watching it in the cinema, I would have been like, that's really sweet. But at the time, I was like, why does he have a daughter? What's going on?
That's probably why, like, their connection is quite...
Yeah,
easy. Because I was like, this...
pretty good.
But it's...
It does just feel jarring, though.
It's kind of like... So, there's gonna be another Thor film, but does this one also take us a jokey route? My argument would be, with this Taika Waititi argument, is I wouldn't want him to do the next Thor. And it's not because he's a bad director, he's not at all. He makes some of my favourite films. But I think it needs to take a different road. So Thor 1 and 2 was serious and seriously bad. And then 3 and 4 have taken this more jokey route, but now you've kind of get to a point where... I'm just
thinking, have they ever done... There's not been Thor... Oh, not Thor. Jesus Christ, these words are all getting mixed up in my head. There's not been 4 installments of an MCU series. This is the first one, right? There's only 3 Captain Americas and 3 Iron Mans.
Yeah, the Guardians is gonna
have
finish
3
on the 3.
Unless you count the Christmas special thing they're doing, but I don't think that's a full film. It's just like a Disney Plus.
No, it's like a joke. Release. It's like the Star Wars holiday special.
Yeah. So this is the only one with 4 movies. That's weird.
How do you kill off Thor? I guess that's what they're...
I guess that you just have him like step away for a while, and then maybe he'll show up further down the line. I thought that's why Jane Foster would take over, but also would Natalie Portman want to sign up to do MCU movies? No. And would Marvel be like, oh,
she's gone down more the critical acclaim stuff. So
yeah.
She's a fantastic actress, but she's kind of gone down that route weird. After the success of Black Swan and stuff. She's kind of stayed on the low path.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad you thought the same, which was like, okay, this is probably going to be Hemsworth's last film, and now I'm at the end, and I'm like, where are they going to take Hemsworth? Like, do you even know when his contract ends? Cause
I have no idea. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, well, it said at the end, didn't it? Thor will return, which I think they have already said will be. They've said what movie it's going to be in. I can't remember what it was though.
Also, I hated the way they left Guardians. They just went, oh yeah, he's going, bye. It's just like, oh yeah, we could help. No, bye.
It seemed like obviously, like we talk about the new Star Wars trilogy a lot, and how J.J. Abrams had to pick up what Rian Johnson had decided to do, right? Didn't it? It felt that part to me when they were like, obviously it was really funny. Like the scenes between Thor and the Guardians are always great, but it felt like the Russo brothers were like, we want to have Thor leave with the Guardians at the end of Endgame. Like, that's going to be a fun thing. Because obviously he met up with them in Endgame, didn't he, right? And then they go off. And they're like, or was it Infinity War? One of the two. They're one movie. And like it's like, that's a fun dynamic. They'll leave together as well and go off on adventures. And then it was almost like they then like checked in with Taika Waititi and he was like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want the Guardians in my movie. Because they like left with him, and then at the start of this movie, they just split again.
Or it's more maybe because it was awkward. Because
I guess it's just to like so that you can be like, this is what they've been up to in the meantime.
Because James Gunn's trying to go more DC, right?
He's doing a lot of DC stuff, yeah.
So he might have just been like, I just want to get this last Guardians done. Like, can we just get it done? Otherwise,
well, because they weren't going to bring him back. Remember when he got like cancelled for a week, and then all of the Guardians actors came out and were like, well, we're not doing Guardians if it's not him, and then they put him back.
Yeah, that was dumb. Didn't you?
That was weird, right?
He said something like,
like 10 years ago
something
at least.
About, he said like a dead baby joke or something.
Yeah, it was weird. Like I can't really remember what he said, but yeah, that was a weird time. But yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's weird. One of the final thing, which is actually the final thing you see when you watch the movie, because it's the last post-credit, is where Jane Foster goes to Valhalla. I was listening to Kevin Smith speak about this, and he mentioned something that I hadn't even thought of. Obviously, you only go to Valhalla if you die in battle, which Jane Foster, she got wounded in battle, but she didn't, she wasn't like cut in half by a blade or anything. She lost Mjolnir. And then, because of that, her cancer caught up with her, right? So he was like, well, she didn't die in battle. So is Heimdall kind of welcoming her meant to be like, she's in Valhalla because of her personal battle instead of her physical battle? And is that like her send-off? Which I was like, that would make sense. I mean, they didn't say that. So I don't know if you can give them credit for that or whether that's just like overthinking something. But it is like...
Or the bigger hope...
Does it end with her being in... Yeah.
Is the bigger hope that this is just the start of a war? That people don't know has even started?
Similar to how Thor beat Gorr at the start of this whole Gorr the God Butcher series comics.
Yeah.
And then it turned into a massive war with Gorr.
I don't think.
Could it be the same? I can't imagine it's
Christian
that
Bale
far
ain't
out.
doing multiple movies. I guarantee you as well, one of the only reasons he signed up is because they said, we'll give you a redeemable ending. Where you're like, he ain't so bad. He did the right thing in the end. Christian Bale, at this point in his career, I don't think would be like, you know, if he's going to do a Marvel movie, he's going to do one and done, character arc, I'm out. Like, he ain't getting signed on to multiple movies. And also, like, how long is it going to be before another Thor movie? It would be so weird for there to be 5 Thor movies. Like, now that I stop and think about it, how there's only 3 Captain Americas and 3 Iron Mans.
Because Thor...
5 Thor movies.
I mean, unless they really are trying to be like...
That's like nearly as many as the Leprechaun.
Can you... Maybe they're like, please, for the love of God, forget about Dark World.
yeah, they're like, what do you mean there's 4? There's 3!
There's 3, what are you on about? Dark... Who? No.
Malekith, who?
We don't know any of these things, sorry. But yeah, what would I prefer out of the comic book or the film? As you said, there's bits of both I like. I like the ending of this. I hate the ending of the film. However, the majority of the middle stuff of the film's quite good. Yeah. And the middle of that's just basically, I mean, it's comic book travel. It's comic book storytelling. Yeah. But would I have liked a God Bomb? That's the big question. And everyone's minds. Everyone's like, shut up about the film. Do you like God Bomb? I would have loved the God Bomb. Imagine if that happened.
That would have been cool.
That would have been sick.
That would have been. I would have been sat there like, oh my god. If they had said, have you heard about this god Shadrach? I would have been like, I would have been the only person in the cinema like, no way, Shadrach
coming out like the Absorbaloff. You get Peter Kay in the MCU. Yo, that'd be sick.
Oh, wow. So yeah, we're gonna we'll go back to DC, like I said. So the tease for the next episode, which I already gave you at the end of the Old Man Logan, is we're doing a Batman, but it doesn't have Batman in it. And then yeah, we'll carry on with the whole DC Marvel. Apart from Halloween, I've switched it because we're going to do a specific book a few days before Halloween. So I've switched the order again then, but you know, that all makes sense.
Before Christmas.
Here we go. That's going to be a good one. Which one's better, the movie or